Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and sorry for a belated video. This one's a little late. I've been working some crazy hours. This is a Gaslands style build for the February car of the month for the UK Gaslands group. Uh, this turned, with work and everything, it's just been so crazy. I ended up getting it done within like an hour to spare to submit it. It didn't quite turn out the way I had expected. It came out good, but it's certainly nowhere in comparison to the competition that was available and shown on the Gaslands page. So it's one of those projects I had a vision, and it just started to come to fruition and just didn't completely look like kind of what I expected, and it took a little bit of a turn, and like most of my projects, kind of winging it as I go. So I started with this Hot Wheels casting. It's a Ford Galaxy. I thought it'd be a cool casting for this challenge, which the theme was bootleggers. So I kind of went with something that would be a car that would be really making short runs. So there would be a still somewhere, and they just had to make some quick deliveries. So I didn't need anything fancy that was going to be crazy. This would be, pick up in the morning, make a few deliveries, go back, pick up some more. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of keep that bootlegger theme, and I wanted to go with a lot of brass stuff that would be made, like a still would be made. So I wanted a motor in the back, or a gas tank in the back that would be, it would be sort of dual purpose. It would be the actual alcohol, and the motor would actually run the same thing. So, you go pull up someplace, unplug it from the motor, pump it into to some bottles, and there you go. So that's kind of what I was hoping for with this. So the first thing I did is I cut a hole in the hood to mount the top of a motor, which led me to have to cut off the front end of the actual interior. And if you guys notice the length of this video, it's going to be a little longer than I usually make, just so I can go into a little bit more detail on everything. I tend to I record probably an hour and a half's worth of stuff for each car that I build, so I'm trying to keep it into a small time frame to keep people like me with a short attention span somewhat interested. Is challenging to decide what you're going to keep and what you're not going to keep, but still be able to show the anatomy of the whole build. So that's kind of what I'm doing with this one. So I wanted it to have a somewhat of a rake, and in this post-apocalyptic, we always talk about, with wastelands, you think of Mad Max, you think of deserts, and there's not much around, and the world itself, it still has roads. They may be covered with weeds, but there's still roads. So I'm kind of going with the theme of back roads in Kentucky type of thing, which a lot of them are dirt, but there's still roads. You're not in the sand dunes anywhere. So I figured street tires would be good, but I still wanted to have a muscle car rake. Here I'm kind of playing around with different configurations of what I wanted. I can go with the front wheels underneath the chassis to lift the front end. I can go normal. I can jack the back end. There's a lot of different ways to do it, so I'm just kind of playing around, trying to figure out the best way to do this. And I didn't want to go with any kind of knobby tires, so like I said, I'm using street tires. They're a mix match set, but I have quite a few of those, so these builds afford me the opportunity to do so and use all the different ones I got kicking around. So obviously you don't have to, but I stripped the body with the citrus strip, and then I cleaned it off with a Dremel and a wire brush attachment. I'll scuff it up real quick. You don't have to go crazy on the Gasland style stuff, but to each their own. If you want a good base to work with and not have to worry about anything, that's what I do. So I want to be able to use the trunk, as I said, as a place for the gas tank / alcohol delivery system. So obviously I cut out the deck lid, and then I had to cut off the back of the interior that would overhang normally in the trunk area. So that leaves me this big open space. So I'm going to use some styrene. I believe it's 1/16 thick styrene, and I'm going to use that and kind of make a trunk, so that you don't just see the chrome chassis. Well, it'll be black, but the chassis underneath. So this stuff's pretty easy to work with. Like, you can use scissors, you can use a knife, however you want to cut it. I'm not going crazy as usual measuring. I'm just fitting, cutting, that type of thing. I'm not. It depends on what I'm doing, but more often than not, you get a rough idea. You don't have to spend hours with a ruler. Then obviously I had to make some side pieces, so I just made them bigger. I glued them in, let them cure good enough, and then I just took my knife and I'm gonna cut it to form around the rear fender, or the tops of the rear fenders, and then obviously the back where the tail lights are and the bumper and all that stuff. So I made my marks, then I'll take it apart and just trim it up, and I can use scissors for that as well. Again, it's all up to you on how you do it. That's what's great about these style builds. You can kind of do what you want. I mean, I probably could have left it that way and added stuff to it. So I'd like to do these style builds because it allows me some creative flexibility, which can be bad too, because sometimes you can do whatever you want, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what I want to do, as opposed to some form of when you're doing a regular wheel swap paint, that type of thing, you kind of have a good vision of what you want to do, and you're limited with what you can use for parts. So at least these builds, I get to use up all the crap I got kicking around, so that helps too. So you do this long enough, you get a box of all kinds of stuff, that styrene pieces and bits and so on and so forth. So at this point I wasn't sure, but I figured I would drill out the headlights, because I was thinking about putting gun turrets in there. Because even though you're going to be delivering alcohol on main roads and maybe some small back roads, you still need to have some sort of weapon system in there to make sure nobody tries to raid you, because eventually they'll figure out you're hiding it in the gas tank. And I ended up arming this pretty heavily. I ended up putting some stuff in the headlights. I put a harpoon on the top, and I put a machine gun on the side, just to make sure that it was well protected, because you're going to spend the time making alcohol, you got to make sure it's safe. So I've got a couple grill bars, bush bars, that I'm trying to figure out which ones to use. I ended up cutting this one up 8 ways to Sunday, but right now I'm just trying to fit it so that it fits over the headlights and allows the gun turrets to stick out, which I didn't put a lot of thought into, and now it doesn't line up properly and it would hit the bar. So, but to get it to mount, I have to groove out where it would sit on the bumper. So it's obviously just a flat piece that would mount up in front of something like your grill. But in order to fit, you got to kind of take a little bit out, just so that it nests up against the bumper and would kind of looks semi-normal on how it would be mounted. So that's all I'm doing there, is just taking out some stuff. So I primed the car white. I painted the base black, the Chaos Black, which is like a satin finish. And I decided to put the tires underneath. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. Then I'm going to paint the body. I'm going to mist the body black. So this is all for naught, but I ended up taking some splash paints. I got like a burnt iron and a copper look. So right now that was the burnt iron, and then I'm going to take the copper, and I'm just going to kind of splotch it on there. And essentially that was my paint job. Nothing fancy. Splash paints are a base coat, clear coat system. So it goes on nice, but you still have to clear coat it after, because it has a satin finish. That satin finish was what I was after. So I took some 1/16 aluminum tube, made the guard that went across the windshield. And now I get my gas tank mechanism. So I have like a gear type of thing that I found kicking around in these two tanks. And what I'm going to do, that's kind of like a pump system. So I'm going to mate that to that. You can see some gears on it and stuff. It's a 3D printed part. I don't know where I got it from, to be honest with you. I've had it for a while. I want to say Camsel Designs, but I'm not 100%. So, but essentially what it is I get my gas tank, and then I get a pump that's going to pump the alcohol not only into the motor, but it'll also pump it into bottles for delivery. Again, I put way too much thought in the wrong things on this one. I get the whole scenario. So now that I get the base and the trunk, I get these really thin brass sheets that came with, I don't even know, it's K&S, that's all I know, but it's really, really thin. You could use like a Coke can or inside of an aluminum can, same thickness. So again, I want that brass theme, so that it was, a still that was maybe taken apart and the parts were used for the car. So I'm just lining the trunk with that, just on the base, and that'll be what I mount my gas tank to. And then I want to put something in front of the grill guard. I haven't hacked that up yet, but I'll end up cutting the sides off of that to allow, so that way it's just a push bar and not the whole guard. But this stuff's really easy to form. Pretty much you can bend it by hand, or if you need a tight bend, you can do like I did with a pair of pliers, and that's pretty much it. You can do whatever you need with that. It's real simple to work with. You can see I'm cutting it with scissors, so it is thin, but you can see kind of what I was after there. You can see the different shades on the paint too, so that was kind of a good shot. And here I'm just making, I don't know, it's like a 0.025 brass rod that I have, and I'm using that to go on the gas tank. It's going to be my mechanism that goes from my pump to my gas tank itself. Then it's my exhaust, 1/16 aluminum tubing, pretty much just grinding an angle on it, and that's going to be my exhaust for underneath the car. Come out, dump off right before the rear wheels. This stuff's pretty easy to crease, so you just have to kind of be careful, but you can bend it by hand. I had already done one here. I'm just showing the other side, just putting a slight, well, probably a little bit more than slight angle on it, so that it kind of matches the other side. Excuse me. And then the end of it, what I'm going to do is just take a pair of pliers and crimp it and bend it upwards or towards the wheel well, so it sits in the wheel well, so it looks like it's coming from something, not just there. And then I made a fuel line. This fuel line is going to go from the motor to the gas tank, because that's how the engine's obviously going to run. So I'm also taking some brass and I'm cutting thin strips, and I'm going to use that as my anchors. That's going to anchor my fuel line down the side of the car and into the motor. And I know I'm probably overdoing it on the brass, but again, that was my theme that I was kind of working with, was the still thing. So I just take a piece of piano wire, and I'm going to use that, and then my pliers to kind of crimp around it so that it has like a U, inverted U. That way I can put that onto my side of the car, and it'll sit over the brass that I ran down for my fuel line. So it's just, again, it was just an aesthetic thing. I mean, everybody's got their own styles, and that's kind of what's great about this. So I ended up getting the sponsor of this whole thing was North Star Figures. So I ended up ordering a bootlegger's kit, and I ordered a weapons assorted type thing kit. I'm not sure. I'm horrible with remembering. This was a while ago. It was at least over a month. So considering I can't remember what I had for breakfast, the fact that I remembered it was from them was amazing. So what I want to do is I want to put some sort of a blast shield in the back, but the motor sticks out a little bit, so I'm just taking a piece of styrene and adapting. So I'm just going to weld. I'm not at work. I'm going to take the styrene and glue it to the rear bumper, and that'll allow the blast shield, which looks like corrugated aluminum or steel, and just offset it just enough so that it's away from the motor and protects the gas tank. The gas tank. I'm tired. I've been working. I think I worked like 70 hours a week the last 2 weeks, and today is like the only day I've had off. This video technically has been done for 2 weeks. I just haven't had time. I got some fire alarm wire that I stole from work, and it's just, you can use any kind of I think it's 20 gauge, might be 22, but I think it's 20. And I'm just using that. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's 18. It's 18 gauge wire. It's red and black, and I'm just using that as part of the electrical that would go from the rear of the back seat where the battery is sitting to the motor and to get the gas tank. So, and again, that stuff's pretty easy. It's flexible. It's easy to work with, and it holds its shape. So it's good for quite a few things. It's too big for, say, spark plug wires, but a lot of stuff in the wastelands type builds, it actually works out really well. It's just the right scale. And then I got my zip tie that I'm going to use for my machine gun feed that I put on the side, passenger side of the car. I only need a little piece. It has to wrap over the door itself into the passenger area and down. So that's kind of all I did there. And then I'm going back to my sprue that I got from North Star, and I'm going to pull out those front machine guns I was talking about possibly using. And now I am. They're obviously very long and it would hit the wheels, so I'm just going to trim them down and glue them. And then that way it's actually part of it. And they look good. They're very good quality stuff, so I'm real happy with what they sent me. If you get a chance, check them out. And again, like I said, this video was late. The car was almost late. It was just horrible trying to get everything done. And just one of those things, you know. Life gets in the way sometimes, and if you get I used to get too stressed out about videos, and oh my god, I got to get a video out. Now it's like, you know what? I'm sorry, but people can wait. So I got some more perforated steel, or that appearance of the 3D printed part, and a harpoon to put on top. I just thought that would be kind of cool because I can rotate all the way around. But the roof is curved, the piece is flat, so the edges kind of towards the front and the rear have a little bit of you get some gappage there. So I'm just going to take some brass tubing, crimp the ends, and just glue it down the side to make it look like it was intentional. Which is 90% of these projects is hiding crap. You have gaps, or things don't glue properly, or just the casting doesn't lend itself to what you're trying to put on. Just fill the gaps. You can add stuff. I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic world. You can do whatever you want. I got this barbed wire from Army Painter, and I've figured it's about time I try to use it. I'm going to wrap it around a piece of tubing. I believe that's 3/16 tubing. And that's going to go down the side to protect the harpoon area. It was just one of those little bits that I put on that I thought would make a big difference. Sometimes on these, it's, there's so many details that go into building one of these cars, it's hard to get it all. And sometimes you just have to add a few things, and, it all adds to it. All the little things just go to the full aesthetic of what you're trying to pull out. And then it's just painting. I get some black paint. I'm dry brushing just to add some texture in some areas. You can see I didn't show you everything on the painting because it's meticulous. It's very time consuming, and it's hard to show on camera without. I mean, it's bad enough if you see my hands. You would see my hands and the top of my head because I'm blind as a bat, so I'm constantly leaning over to see it. So sometimes it just doesn't work out to be able to record everything. So. But I use some different colors. I use my normal, lead belcher for the silver areas. I use Balthasar Gold, all Games Workshop stuff. And now I've got the Agrath Earthshade, which is a brown wash. And it's a dirtier looking wash, so that's why I'm using that. The Nuln Oil is more of a black wash, so it's more of an oily look. So those two washes pretty much do everything I need to do, both from Games Workshop. You can make your own. Other companies sell them. But to me, I've had them forever, so it works out really well. I get quite a bit of use out of them. And, just be selective about where you're going. Wherever you think it would be grimy and dirty, just hit it. And it works good over pretty much all colors, but obviously a lighter color really allows it to pool into the recesses, so it brings out a lot of areas, especially on these, because you're painting everything, every little bit and bob. It just really pulls out all the details and allows you, especially from afar, or if you're playing a game, just for it sitting on the table, for it to actually stand out. So that helps. And this was a fun challenge. I wish I had more time. I'm kind of selective about my challenge builds lately. just because time is tight. So it has to, really speak to me. I'm not doing this month's car of the month. I just don't remember. I don't remember what the theme is, but it wasn't anything I was interested in. It didn't speak to me. Sometimes you just, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to build that, and all kinds of stuff come to your head. I had nothing, and I don't have time anyways. I'm going to have enough time finishing the Four Horsemen build. So I got one more crappy week of work, and then I should be good for a while. I think I should be in town. I shouldn't have to leave for any particular reason. Here I'm making the Riser Rust, and I know I'm talking way too much, but a 30-minute video is tough to watch as it is. Never mind listening to me. But the Riser Rust, I'm making a little bit of a slurry, mixing it with some water, and just using that to heavily rust certain areas. Again, for me, I try to hit heavy like where parts are mating to the original casting, like something was welded on and then, wasn't prepped, and it ended up rusting out a little heavier than the rest of the areas. So, and being a southern car, I'm thinking, West Virginia and Kentucky, that type of thing. The rust really would be more surface rust anyways. It's not like New England where it rots out to the ground. So, you can put rust wherever, but obviously try to make it where it would make sense. You can see I'm kind of hitting the welds, or what I would assume to be welds, on the window bars, the cutout around where the engine snorkel's sticking out, all those types of things. And the Riser Rust does lighten up. I know it looks really orange right now, but when it dries, it really does dry with a rust appearance, and you can dull it down afterwards if you want with another color. So that's what's great about these textured paints. And you could just dry brush. If you watch any of my videos that are post-apocalyptic, I tend to dry brush it on more than anything. Colin over at the UK page had mentioned making a slurry, and the last couple builds I've been trying it and practicing my technique, and I'm kind of torn. I like both ways, dry brushing and wet. So try it yourself and see what you think. That's all. The only way you're going to learn is to, it's a 97-cent car, so, and it's a wasteland, so if you screw it up, it's going to look intentional. Because I screw up constantly on these, and half the time you probably can't tell. I just hide it with something. So, but anyways, that's pretty much the car. Just hitting all these areas. The painting is the most meticulous. You got to kind of think too, as you're building these, what can you paint first? What can you paint after while it's on the car? Is it going to be too much of a pain in the ass? I tried to be a little bit more cautious this time in how I put the car together and when I put it together. And that's just something you learn. You can do it either way, but obviously if you can get a little bit of paint on parts before you've attached it to something, you get more coverage. It's easier to paint. So, I know a lot of times, and I've done it myself, I'll put everything on the car, I prime it completely, and then I start putting my base coats on, and sometimes you just can't get to everything. So I just trying different things. That's why I do these, is to help build my skill set and to learn and try different things and see what works. There you can see how I cut the edges of the ones that cover the headlights on the brush bar. Cut those off completely. So see here now, I'm also dry brushing a little bit. The same Riser Rust. So you could do both in the same build. Again, it's all personal preference. I get a lot of inspiration from not only the Gasland pages on Facebook, but also from Instagram. And there's some amazing builders that just kick ass. So you guys need to. I think if you search the hashtag Wastelands or Gaslands cars on Instagram, there's a ton that come up that you'll blow your mind. Now I'm just using my Sterling Mud, which is you can see it oozes there. That's just another texture paint from Games Workshop, the Citadel line, and it just gives you that mud look. Hence the name Sterling Mud. But if you let it dry and then you use something like a Xandri dust or a light beige, essentially, what it does is it gives that dried mud look. So you've got the texture, and then when you put a beige over this, it looks like it's mud that's drying or already dried. So, and it won't come off. you know, I mean, don't go crazy dry brushing over it, but it'll certainly accept, you know, a nice dry brush of a different color over it, and it has that perfect look of dried mud. And real happy that I had found that a while ago. And I'm mixing another textured paint with the Typhus Corrosion. This is a little thinner than the Sterling Mud, and I'm just hitting the wheels, getting them a little grungier. Again, it dries a certain way, and again, it's all experimentation. I mean, you can get the same effect from paints that you get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, you know, the acrylic paints. So you know, experiment. You don't have to go crazy spending money. Sometimes Games Workshop stuff can be, you know, you have to sell a testicle to be able to afford half of it, but it's not too bad overall. So I'm just hitting those areas again that I thought maybe was a little too bright with the Riser Rust. And other than that, I mean, this car is just about done. And hopefully, you know, everybody likes this kind of thing and can learn something from these videos. Everybody who does videos does them for a reason. I do them because I hope to inspire people or give them ideas. I know I don't have the best crap out there by any way, shape, or form, nor do I claim to be. I try to get stuff out that I think can inspire people and get them into a hobby that I completely and thoroughly enjoy, and I find it relaxing and a way to just take the stress from normal day-to-day living out. You know, I can go downstairs, work on this at the workshop, and I'm not thinking about what I got to do at work. I'm not thinking about bills. I'm not thinking about anything except for what I'm doing and how to record it actually as well. But other than that, it's just a great way. I actually get a lot of notes and emails and messages from people that you know, have tried it and found that it was very, very nice to be able to find something that'll help them de-stress. So that's what I started with. This is what I ended up with. I think it came out really good. It certainly wasn't UK Gaslands page quality for a competition, but in comparison to the stuff that's there. But I like it. Personally, I'm happy with it. It's going to go in my shelf with my other Gaslands builds. You know, I hope you guys got some sort of inspiration or tips or anything out of this that you found useful. If you did, let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. But either way, I will catch you on the next one.